The Simulation Football League presents The Kramer Show. Your non-stop SFL action begins now.
Welcome to The Kramer Show. Who is this, you're wondering? You're not Kramer. Well, Kramer was not available this week, so he reached out to the most talented people in the SFL to see if one of them could step up and help get this episode out. Now, apparently they were all busy, so here I am. I'm Charles Doherty. I'm the halfback for Vancouver, player named Sudo Nakai. I'm also the general manager and defensive coordinator for Vancouver, and also a broadcaster. Thank you for joining. I'd like you to kick back for the next 20 minutes and take your minds off all the crazy stuff that's happening in our world, and let's talk some simulation football. Starting off with a recap of Week 10.
The recap of the week.
The Houston Hyenas defeated the Vancouver Legion 55-45. Player of the game was halfback Warren Murray with 222 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown. Some of the Houston standouts on offense: wide receiver DR Sim with 11 receptions, 161 yards, with a 14.6 average and 3 touchdowns. Defense standout linebacker Rodney Panani with 1 interception and 1 touchdown. Arizona beat the St. Louis Gladiators 34-24. Player of the game was quarterback Ashley Jackson with 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 122.9 QBR. Some of the Arizona standouts included tight end Tiberius Bovine with 5 receptions for 114 yards, 22.8 yard average, that's for a tight end, and 2 touchdowns. On defense, cornerback Mana Kanaka with 2 interceptions. The New Orleans Pharaohs beat the Mexico City Aztecs 22-13, and the player of the game was on special teams, the kicker. I don't know if I've ever seen a kicker win player of the game. Austin Powers of the New Orleans Pharaohs, 5 for 5 in field goals, 1 for 1 for point after attempts, and he also nailed a 51-yarder. Some of the New Orleans standouts on offense: wide receiver Ermac Jackson with a receiving touchdown, and the entire defensive line for New Orleans, including Chris Leone, Ovaltine Jenkins, Zig Washington, Ray West. They all combined for 11 tackles, 3 sacks, and 4 tackles for losses. The Florida Storm beat the Charleston Predators 28-21. Player of the game, wide receiver Stephen Bush with 131 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and a 16.4 yard average. Some of the Florida standouts on defense included free safety Ryan Tobin with 12 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, 1 interception. And on special teams, their punter Marcus Agrippa had 3 punts, 2 of them within 20-yard lines, and 1 touchback. The Atlanta Swarm beat the Queen City Corsairs 37-20. Player of the game was halfback BDG Hollywood, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 receiving touchdown. Atlanta standouts on offense: Siege Falco, wide receiver, 9 receptions, 195 yards for a 21.7 average and 1 touchdown. And on defense, linebacker Aquinas Shine, 14 tackles. It's amazing, and 1 tackle for loss. The Tulsa Desperados lost to the Baltimore Vultures 38-16. Player of the game was halfback T-Roy Gaines with 167 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Standouts on Baltimore included wide receiver Ivory Irving, 5 receptions, 89 yards, 17.8 average, and 1 touchdown. On defense, strong safety Tony Willis, 11 tackles, 1 interception. And on special teams, Giovanni the Bolt, punt return for a touchdown of 66 yards. The Denver Nightwings beat the Chicago Wildcats. Josh Miller at quarterback for Denver was the player of the game, 329 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 101.6 QBR. Standouts on Denver included wide receiver Logan Keel, 9 receptions, 93 yards, 10.3 yard average, 1 touchdown, targeted 9 times, receptions 9 times. That's unbelievable. And on defense, strong safety Jacob Gustafson, 8 tackles, 3 pass deflections. The Sioux Falls Sparrows beat the Seattle Tyrants 24-21. Player of the game, Sioux Falls Sparrows halfback Colin Hart with 158 yards, 1 touchdown, Sioux Falls standouts on offense included wide receiver Gunnar Lewis, 6 receptions, 100 yards, 16.7 yard average, 1 touchdown. He was targeted 6 times. He brought it in, caught it 6 times. The Jacksonville Kings defeated the London Knights 35 to 27. Player of the game, Jacksonville quarterback Christensen, 370 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and a 92.7 QBR. Standouts on Jacksonville offense included wide receiver Ken Gossett, 11 receptions, 131 yards, 11.9 average, and 2 touchdowns. Defensive standout was defensive end Hunter Norwood with 2 sacks. The Carolina Skyhawks beat the Las Vegas Fury 20-17. Player of the game was wide receiver Harish Prasad, 68 receiving yards and 1 kick return for a touchdown. And on defense, cornerback David Josephson for Carolina had 2 interceptions. All right, now let's talk about the players of the week.
Players of the week.
On offense, quarterback Ashley the Quiet Storm Jackson for the Arizona Scorpions, 20 for 25 passing, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 122.9 QBR in a victory. On defense for the Chicago Wildcats, Ryan Yosef, 12 tackles, 1 assist, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 1 of those was taken to the house for a touchdown. Special teams player of the week, Harish Prasad, 4 kick returns, 178 return yards total, and on 1 return, he went 102 yards to take it to the house. Honorable mention for offense was T. Roy Gaines, halfback for Baltimore Vultures with 167 yards and 3 touchdowns. On defense, Jeff Milanishin, strong safety for Florida Storm, 4 solo tackles, 1 pass deflection, and a 97-yard pick 6. Honorable mention for special teams, Mark Lopez, Vancouver Legion, strong safety, 93-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Now let's talk about the playoffs in the SFL.
Playoffs?
Right now,
Playoffs?
there are 5 teams that have clinched the playoff berth. Atlanta Swarm at 9-1, the Vancouver Legion at 8-2, the Baltimore Vultures at 7-3, the Sioux Falls Sparrows at 7-3, and the Queen City Corsairs at 7-3. The rest of the teams are fighting out for positions include the Kings, the Predators at both 6-4, the Tulsa Desperados and Chicago Wildcats both at 5-5, and the Denver Nightwings at 4-6, holding off the last spot right now. If the playoffs were to start today, their strength of victory was a win over New Orleans and Las Vegas. So it looks like we have New Orleans, Las Vegas, Florida, Arizona, Mexico City, St. Louis, and Carolina. They're still in it. That makes 17 teams overall, if my math is correct. These next couple of weeks are just going to be bananas,
trending?
Trying to track who's going to be in and who's going to be out. You gotta win it to be in it. I mean, for most of the teams, I think the only one sitting pretty at this point is Atlanta Swarm, and that's by 1 game. So everybody's got to win, taking it to the end of the season. This is going to be outstanding. Stay tuned. Watch every game because everyone pretty much has playoff implications.
Who you got?
So let's talk about predictions for this week. These are my predictions and mine alone. The first game has the New Orleans Pharaohs playing Charleston Predators. New Orleans is coming off a big win against Mexico City, and they're taking this momentum to Charleston. They met earlier in Week 8. New Orleans won by 3. Charleston started off 6-1, but they've been a little cold the last couple games. They've lost the last 3. So in this particular game, I'm going to pick the New Orleans Pharaohs to win. The next game has the Denver Nightwings facing the Vancouver Legions. Everybody knows I'm a homer on this one. I think Vancouver's going to win, but it's going to be a close one. Vancouver's going to win by 3. Next game has the Carolina Skyhawks facing the Atlanta Swarm. Atlanta's undefeated at home this season. I'm taking Atlanta. I think this was a pretty easy decision. They're going to be the first team to get 10 wins this season. Next game is Houston Hyenas taking on the London Knights. I'm going to take Houston on the road. Next game is the Jacksonville Kings playing the Sioux Falls Sparrows. They met earlier in the season. Sioux Falls won 23-13. Jacksonville's 3-2 on the road. Sioux Falls is 3-1 at home. And they're coming off a 3-game road trip. So in this matchup, I think Sioux Falls is going to win in a nail biter. It's going to be close. I probably think this game's probably going to be one of the most exciting games to watch of the week. But again, I think Sioux Falls is going to walk away with this one. Next game has Seattle Tyrants traveling to the Chicago Wildcats. Seattle's 1-4 on the road. They came off a squeaker last week with a loss against Sioux Falls. Chicago's 3-1 at home, fighting for a playoff spot. My pick for this game is Chicago. The Mexico City Aztecs are traveling to the Tulsa Desperados. They met in Week 8. Tulsa won 48-33. Mexico City's 1-4 on the road. Tulsa's 2-3. I expect a lot of scoring from both of these teams, but I think Mexico City's going to walk away with a win. Baltimore Vultures are traveling to the Florida Storm. Baltimore's on the road. Baltimore's starting to get hot at the right time of the season. I think this is one of the most dangerous teams going into the playoffs. They're peaking just at the right time, and they're great on both sides of the ball. In this game, I'm going to pick Baltimore. The Queen City Corsairs are playing the St. Louis Gladiators. Queen City plays very good on the road. This is going to be close, but I think QC is going to come away with a win. The last game on the slate is the Las Vegas Fury playing the Arizona Scorpions. Arizona is really starting to get things clicking here just at the right time at the end of the season. They're on a 2-game winning streak. And Las Vegas, they don't play very well on the road. So I'm going to give the nod to Arizona. So those are my predictions for the week. Again, these are my predictions. Hold me accountable to them. But good luck this week. Again, we got some great games going. So I think that's going to be it for the Week 11 Kramer Show. I'd like to thank Kramer Jackman for the opportunity to guest host this amazing show. As always, please leave a like below. If you want to learn more or become part of the SFL, please check us out on our website at www.simulationfl.net or on Twitter at SimulationFL. Or you could join us on our Discord server at SFL-Discord. All of the links are below in the video. Thank you for joining. Kramer Jackman will see you next week on The Kramer Show. This is Charles Doherty signing off.